Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. The more you expose your pain to the world, the more you risk giving others a weapon to use against you. Not everyone will respond with compassion. In fact, some people take a strange pleasure in watching you struggle, whether out of envy, malice, or their own deep insecurities. And the truth is, this quiet cruelty exists everywhere, at work, among friends, even within families. That's why learning to protect your emotions, not by bottling them up, but by strengthening your inner world, is one of the most powerful things you can do. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, didn't just survive relentless pressure, he remained calm under it. He taught that real power lies in self-control, that when you stop reacting to everything around you, you start mastering your fate. Imagine being like a mighty tree in the middle of a storm. The leaves may shake, the branches may sway, but the trunk remains unmoved, deeply rooted in the earth. That is Stoic resilience. In this video, we're going to explore 18 powerful principles inspired by the writings and meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Each one will help you stay calm under pressure, maintain inner peace, and act as if nothing bothers you, even when the world tries to shake you. Because strength isn't loud, it's silent, steady, and deeply rooted. Let's begin. Principle number 1. Listen twice as much as you speak. Why is it so hard for people to simply listen? In a world where everyone's talking, posting, and shouting their opinions, the ability to stay silent and truly absorb what others say has become rare and powerful. Marcus Aurelius believed that wisdom begins in silence. In his meditations, he reminds us again and again to observe without reacting, to understand before judging. He lived in the heart of the Roman Empire, surrounded by noise, war, betrayal, and politics. And yet he found clarity not in making noise, but in quiet reflection. So why do we keep rushing to speak? Often it's because we want to be heard, to feel important, to prove our worth. But Marcus would say, if your words don't improve upon silence, don't speak. He taught that the more we listen, the more we learn. And the more we learn, the less we need to prove. Listening builds strength because it trains the mind to pause, process, and act with intention. The one who speaks without thinking is ruled by impulse, but the one who listens first is ruled by wisdom. Ask yourself this. How often do you enter a conversation just waiting for your turn to talk? What if you stopped and truly listened, not just to respond, but to understand? What could you learn about others, about yourself? Marcus practiced this in court, in war, in his family. He listened not just with his ears, but with attention and presence. He knew that every person, even a fool, has something to teach. So starting today, be that rare person who values silence. Speak less, but when you do, speak with power. Because listening isn't weakness. It's one of the greatest signs of strength. Principle number 2. Always expect the worst. Why do we suffer so much from things that haven't even happened? Why does the mind race ahead, building nightmares out of thin air? Marcus Aurelius understood this tendency all too well. As emperor, he lived under constant threat of betrayal, war, illness, and death, yet he remained composed. Why? Because he trained himself to expect the worst, not in a negative, pessimistic way, but as a strategy for inner peace. He called this technique premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. When you anticipate that things may go wrong, you take away their ability to shock you. And what no longer shocks you can no longer control you. Marcus wrote, "Do not let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Stick with the present situation." But even then, he was aware of what could come. He simply didn't fear it. He mentally rehearsed the losses, the criticisms, the betrayals, not to wallow in fear, but to prepare his spirit to remain steady no matter what came. Think about it. How often do we imagine the worst only to be destroyed by the anxiety, even when the thing we feared never actually happens? And then, when hardship truly arrives, we panic. But the Stoic way is different. You prepare for failure, not to be defeated, but to rise from it faster, to meet it calmly, to say, "I was expecting you." So ask yourself, what if you stopped running from your fears and started training for them? What if you visualized not just success, but also struggle, setbacks, and loss, and prepared your soul to handle them with grace? That's not weakness. That's discipline. That's Stoic strength. And when life finally tests you, you won't be surprised. You'll be ready. Principle number 3. Prepare to fail because it's the only way to progress. Why are we so afraid of failure when it's the one thing that can shape us into who we're meant to become? Marcus Aurelius never saw failure as something to run from. Instead, he saw it as a teacher. As emperor, he made countless decisions under pressure. Some went well, others didn't. But in his private writings, he never condemned himself for mistakes. Instead, he reflected, adapted, and kept moving. "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action," he wrote, "I shall gladly change. For I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." In this one line, Marcus shows us what real progress looks like. It's not perfection, it's humility. It's the willingness to stumble, to fall, and to learn. Too many people stay stuck in the fear of looking foolish. But the truth is, nobody becomes great without being bad at something first. Every master was once a beginner. Every wise person was once ignorant. And every confident speaker, leader, or thinker once stood in silence, unsure of themselves. Failure is how we strip away illusion. It's how we discover what needs to change. Marcus wasn't afraid of getting things wrong. He was afraid of not growing, and so should we be. If we avoid failure at all costs, we avoid growth. But if we welcome it, we invite transformation. So the next time you feel that sinking feeling of falling short, pause. Don't run from it. Ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? Because that's where strength is built. Not in the easy wins, but in the hard-earned lessons. Prepare to fail, but don't fear it. Because every failure, when met with courage, becomes a stepping stone toward wisdom. Principle number 4. Be aware of the dangers of fortune. Why do we chase wealth, status, and luxury as if they're the ultimate goals, only to feel more lost when we get them? Marcus Aurelius had access to everything. He was emperor of the most powerful empire on earth. He could command armies, acquire riches, and live in absolute comfort. Yet in his journal he warned himself again and again, "Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go." Because he knew the truth. Fortune is a double-edged sword. It can elevate your life, yes, but it can also cloud your judgment, corrupt your character, and tie your happiness to things you can't control. Marcus didn't despise wealth, but he feared the illusion that often comes with it, the illusion that material success equals inner peace. It doesn't. In fact, it often distracts us from the deeper work, building discipline, humility, and emotional independence. Ask yourself, are the things you want strengthening you or making you dependent? Are they helping you grow or trapping you in constant anxiety to protect them? Marcus believed that if your peace depends on external things, money, fame, comfort, then your peace is fragile. True peace, he taught, comes from needing less, not having more. So instead of being seduced by fortune, be mindful of its power. Use it, don't be used by it. Enjoy what life gives you, but never cling to it. Because when life takes it away, and it eventually will, you'll still have your greatest asset, a steady mind and a calm soul. That's the kind of wealth no thief can steal and no market can crash. Principle number 5. Do not cling to a single hope. Why do we place all our happiness on the success of one dream, one goal, one person, as if our entire life depends on it? Marcus Aurelius knew how dangerous it was to attach yourself to a single outcome. Don't tie your heart to something that can be taken away, he reminded himself, because when your peace depends on just one thing going right, your peace is always at risk. It's not that you shouldn't have dreams, but the Stoic approach is to pursue many paths, to cast your net wide, and to remain flexible with how life unfolds. Marcus believed that rigid expectations are a trap. When we say it has to happen this way, we give our power away to chance. And if that one hope fails, what happens then? Most people break, but the wise remain whole. So ask yourself, what dream are you clinging to so tightly that the mere thought of losing it terrifies you? A job, a relationship, an ideal version of your life. Marcus would challenge you to loosen your grip, not to give up, but to gain freedom. Because when you stop depending on one path, you begin to see how many others exist. And that is when real power returns. You can still hope, but never make hope your anchor. Make your mindset your anchor. Because hopes can rise and fall, but your attitude, your preparation, your discipline, that's what carries you through uncertainty. Marcus lived by this, and you can too. Dream freely, but stand firmly. That way, no matter what happens, you'll never be lost. Principle number 6. Always remember that death is waiting at the end of the road. Why do we act as if we'll live forever when every day we are walking closer to the end? Marcus Aurelius reflected on death constantly, not to feel fear, but to gain clarity. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, he wrote. This wasn't morbid, it was liberating. Because when you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it. Most people live distracted lives, caught in routines, consumed by trivial pursuits, obsessing over what others think. But when you face the truth, that death is inevitable, you begin to live more intentionally. Marcus wasn't telling us to obsess over dying. He was showing us how to fully appreciate living. To understand that every moment you ignore is one you'll never get back. So why do we give decades of our life to goals that don't matter? Why do we chase things we can't take with us? He reminds us, no amount of wealth, beauty, or fame will follow us beyond the grave. And if that's true, then the only real riches are the ones we build inside: character, courage, wisdom, love. Ask yourself, if you knew this was your last year, would you still live the way you are now? Would you still argue over small things? Would you still waste time on distractions? Marcus Aurelius lived with this awareness every day, and it gave him strength, urgency, and peace. So carry this thought with you like a compass. Death is coming, and because it is, every choice you make matters more. Live deliberately, speak truthfully, love deeply. That's how you honor the time you've been given. Principle number 7. True wealth lies in a contented spirit. Why do we spend so much of our lives chasing more, when the secret to wealth might be needing less? Marcus Aurelius, who had access to every luxury imaginable, often reminded himself that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. These are not the words of a man lacking riches. They are the words of a man who realized riches mean nothing without inner peace. We've been trained to measure wealth by what we own: cars, clothes, houses, titles. But Marcus saw a different kind of currency: the ability to remain calm in chaos, to feel whole without constant stimulation, to enjoy what you already have without craving more. He knew that the one who needs the least is the one who has the most. So ask yourself, are you rich in possessions but poor in peace? Do you keep reaching for new things, hoping they'll finally make you feel complete? Marcus would tell you to pause, breathe, and look inward. Because true contentment doesn't come when you finally get everything you want. It comes when you stop needing everything you don't. Gratitude was the foundation of his strength. He trained himself to appreciate even the smallest things: a quiet morning, a clear thought, a breath of fresh air. He wrote to himself not to envy the lives of others, but to honor the simplicity of his own. So the next time you feel inadequate or left behind, ask, am I truly lacking, or have I simply forgotten what really matters? Contentment isn't passive. It's a conscious choice. And once you make it, you'll discover the kind of wealth no bank account can match. Principle number 8. Incorporate humility into your life. Why is humility so rare in a world obsessed with being right, being first, and being admired? Marcus Aurelius held the most powerful position in the Roman Empire, yet he constantly reminded himself that he was just a man, fragile, flawed, and temporary. Do not think yourself more important because you happen to understand something others do not, he wrote. That's the voice of a leader who knew that true greatness begins with humility. Humility isn't weakness. It's strength without arrogance. It's the ability to keep learning even when others look to you as the master. Marcus believed that the minute you think you know everything, you've already begun to decline. Why? Because pride blocks growth. It makes you deaf to wisdom and blind to your own faults. Ask yourself, when was the last time you admitted you were wrong? Not out of defeat, but out of the courage to grow. When did you last let go of the need to impress and simply chose to understand? Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. Despite being surrounded by flattery and praise, he grounded himself with one truth: the world is vast, and we know so little of it. Approach life like a student, not a king. That was his mindset. No matter how much power you have, there's always more to learn, more to understand, more to improve. And the moment you embrace that, you become unstoppable, because you're no longer chained to ego. So start today. Don't pretend to have the answers. Ask better questions. Don't rush to show how much you know. Listen with the intent to learn, because humility is the door through which all wisdom enters. And Marcus Aurelius walked through that door every single day. Principle number 9. Guilt is synonymous with plague. Why do we carry guilt like a shadow, dragging it from one day to the next, believing that punishing ourselves somehow makes us better? Marcus Aurelius saw guilt not as a virtue, but as a barrier to clarity. In his meditations, he reminds himself, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, stop wallowing in what you should have done, and start doing what you still can. Guilt is like rust on the mind. It eats away at your focus, your energy, and your ability to act. People often think feeling guilty proves they care, but Marcus would say it's not about feeling bad, it's about doing better. The wise do not drown in shame. They correct their course and keep moving. Ask yourself this: when you make a mistake, do you take action to improve, or do you sit in emotional self-punishment hoping it will somehow redeem you? The Stoics believed that blame, whether toward others or yourself, is wasted motion. Guilt distracts from responsibility, and when you're distracted, you lose power. Marcus never avoided the reality of his errors, but he refused to let them control his present. He didn't cling to regret. He focused on aligning his next decision with reason, duty, and purpose. That's the Stoic way. You don't run from your wrongs. You correct them without drama, without ego, and without delay. So the next time guilt rises in your chest, pause. Don't suppress it, but don't worship it either. Ask, what is the next right action I can take? Then do that, because guilt is not a life sentence. It's a signal. And if you respond wisely, you don't have to stay stuck. You can rise. Principle number 10, make alliances with winning people. Who do you allow into your inner circle, and how are they shaping your soul? Marcus Aurelius believed that the people around you have the power to lift you higher or pull you into chaos. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts, he wrote, and your thoughts, more often than not, are reflections of the people you spend time with. If you surround yourself with complainers, cowards, or manipulators, it's only a matter of time before their energy becomes yours. But if you align with disciplined, wise, and forward-moving individuals, your growth accelerates, almost effortlessly. That's not just Stoic theory, it's reality. Ask yourself, do the people around me encourage my higher nature, or feed my lower instincts? Do they make me want to rise, to take ownership of my life, to live with clarity and courage? Or do they distract me with gossip, envy, and emotional noise? Marcus didn't have the luxury of choosing all his company. He was emperor, constantly surrounded by generals, senators, and strangers with personal agendas. But still, he held fast to this principle. Protect your inner space, guard your peace, and where possible, choose your companions wisely. Even one true friend, one thoughtful ally, can shift your entire path. It's not about popularity, it's about purity. Purity of intention, energy, and values. The Stoic path is not a lonely one, it's just selective. You walk with those who elevate you, and you leave behind those who drain your strength. So take inventory. You don't owe access to anyone who disrupts your inner calm. Align with people who inspire discipline, honesty, and wisdom. Because the company you keep is the future you're building, whether you realize it or not. Principle number 11. Never forget that your reactions forge your destiny. What if your future isn't shaped by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond? Marcus Aurelius believed this to his core. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This was not just philosophy for him, it was survival. As emperor, he faced war, disease, betrayal, and loss. But in all of it, he never let the chaos outside dictate the peace inside. Most people think life is defined by circumstances, but the Stoic understands that life is shaped by choices, especially the ones made under pressure. Your reaction to adversity is what builds your character, not your title, not your success, not your reputation. It's how you handle being tested that defines you. Ask yourself, when life disappoints you, do you become bitter or better? When someone wrongs you, do you lash out or rise above it? Your reactions write the story of who you are, and they do it moment by moment, day by day. Marcus didn't seek revenge on those who betrayed him. He didn't crumble under the weight of criticism. Instead, he asked, "What is within my control?" and acted from that center. He knew that anger, fear, and self-pity were temptations that only pulled him further from his true self. And so he trained his mind to stay calm, to pause before reacting, to lead with reason, not impulse. That's your power, too. You may not control what life throws at you, but you always control how you show up in response. So the next time you feel shaken, stop and breathe. Remember who you want to be, because in that pause you are forging your destiny, one choice at a time. Principle number 12, always fulfill your duty. What drives you to act each day, praise, reward, or purpose? Marcus Aurelius believed that duty, not recognition, should be the foundation of every action. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work, as a human being." That line from his meditations is a reminder that we're not here for comfort. We're here for contribution. In nature, the sun rises without applause. The bees work without being thanked. The trees grow without needing approval. And Marcus saw himself, and us, the same way. Each of us has a role to play, a task that's ours alone. And the mark of wisdom is to do that task fully, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Ask yourself, do I only show up when there's something in it for me? Or do I show up because it's right? When you tie your effort to praise, you become a slave to approval. But when you tie it to duty, you become unstoppable. Marcus didn't need flattery to lead the Roman Empire. He didn't wait for permission to do what was just. He believed that your actions should speak for themselves, that honor comes not from noise, but from consistency. You wake up, you do the work, you meet your responsibilities. Not because someone's keeping score, but because you are. So whether your duty is to your family, your work, your character, or your community, fulfill it. Quietly. Powerfully. Because that's what real strength looks like. You don't need applause to act with integrity, you just need clarity of purpose. And when you live by that, your life becomes its own kind of reward. Principle number 13. Do not hate those who hate you. Why waste your peace on people who don't deserve a second of your energy? Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, rumors, and political attacks from those closest to him. Yet he never allowed hatred to take root in his heart. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, he wrote. In other words, don't let the hatred of others make you bitter. Let it make you better. Hate is a heavy burden to carry. It doesn't punish the one who hurt you, it punishes you. It poisons your thoughts, clouds your decisions, and hardens your spirit. Marcus understood this. He saw that the truly powerful person is not the one who fights back with cruelty, but the one who rises above it with silence, dignity, and reason. Ask yourself, when someone disrespects you, do you take the bait? Do you match their energy, or do you protect your own? Every time you react with hatred, you give your power away. But every time you choose peace over pride, you grow stronger, calmer, unshakable. Marcus didn't say we should tolerate injustice, but he taught that our response must be guided by our character, not theirs. If someone slanders you, don't echo their words. Prove them wrong with your conduct. If someone tries to drag you down, stand taller. Not for them, but for yourself. So the next time you feel that fire rising inside you, remember this. You don't have to respond to hate with hate. You don't have to become what wounded you. Instead, pause, stay composed, and let your silence speak for you, because the highest form of strength isn't revenge, it's self-control. Principle number 14. Bet on simplicity. Why do we complicate our lives with things we don't need, chasing comfort, clutter, and endless consumption, only to feel more burdened, not more fulfilled? Marcus Aurelius lived in palaces, wore robes of gold, and had the power to command anything he wanted. And yet, he wrote, very little is needed to live a happy life. He knew that simplicity is not a limitation, it's liberation. In a world that constantly pushes you to buy more, achieve more, prove more, the Stoic path leads in the opposite direction. Simplicity gives you back your time, your clarity, your energy. Marcus didn't reject material things, he simply refused to be owned by them. He stripped away the unnecessary to focus on what truly matters: discipline, peace, purpose. Ask yourself, are you living simply, or are you constantly overwhelmed by things you don't actually need? Do you really want that bigger house, or are you chasing the illusion of status? Do you need another distraction, or would you be better served by silence, stillness, and space to think? Simplicity isn't just about possessions. It's about mindset. It's about clearing the emotional clutter too, letting go of resentment, comparison, and the constant need to impress. When you live simply, you live closer to truth. You free yourself from the chaos of chasing what doesn't last. Marcus Aurelius bet on simplicity not because he lacked access to wealth, but because he understood how easily wealth can enslave. And the more you need, the more you fear losing. But the one who needs little fears nothing. So today, simplify your space, simplify your thoughts, simplify your life. Because what's essential is rarely complicated, and when you let go of the excess, you make room for peace. Principle number 15. When you allow others to bother you, you give up control. Who really controls your life, yourself or the people who know how to push your buttons? Marcus Aurelius taught that no one can disturb your peace unless you give them permission. He wrote, "If someone does wrong, it's their problem. Your only job is to respond with reason." That's the essence of Stoic mastery, knowing that your inner world belongs only to you. It's easy to let insults, criticisms, or disrespect trigger you. It's easy to get angry, defensive, or crushed by judgment. But every time you react without thinking, you hand over the keys to your emotional world. You say, "Here, take control of my mood, my thoughts, my actions." That's not power. That's surrender. Ask yourself, how many hours, how many days have you lost because of what someone said or did? Was it worth it? Marcus would tell you, people are going to do what they do. Your strength is measured not by how loud you react, but by how calm you remain. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions, it means you lead them. You choose how to respond instead of being dragged around by every annoyance. That's what separates the reactive from the resilient, the emotionally fragile from the mentally free. When someone tries to offend you, remember, they're offering you a burden, but you don't have to pick it up. You can let their words fall flat. You can walk away. You can choose peace over drama and clarity over chaos. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about this, he lived it, surrounded by powerful enemies and deceitful allies. And yet, he chose calm. You can too. Because when you stop letting others control your reactions, you take your power back for good. Principle number 16. Friendship is above wealth. What would you rather have when life falls apart? A full bank account, or a loyal friend who stands beside you without hesitation? Marcus Aurelius understood the value of true friendship far more than material riches. In the midst of palaces and power, he wrote, "When you have the power to benefit someone, why put it off?" He saw friendship not as a luxury, but as a moral duty and a source of strength. We live in an age where wealth is worshipped and relationships are often transactional. But when the storms of life come, and they always come, it's not money that pulls you through. It's connection. It's trust. It's the people who know your heart and stand with you even when you have nothing to offer. Ask yourself, are you investing in your friendships the way you invest in your goals? Do you nurture the people who bring you peace? Or do you only turn to them when you're in need? Marcus knew that empires crumble, fortunes vanish, and fame fades, but sincere relationships can outlast them all. He didn't surround himself with flatterers or opportunists. He valued those who challenged him, who reminded him to live with virtue, who anchored him when the weight of being emperor became too heavy. And he honored those bonds through gratitude, loyalty, and presence. So what about you? Who in your life truly wants the best for you? Who lifts you without envy and tells you the truth when it's hard to hear? Cherish those people. And more importantly, be that kind of person for someone else. Because in the end, wealth can buy things, but not belonging, not warmth, not trust. True friendship is the quiet gold that sustains us when everything else falls away. Principle number 17. Always extract the benefit from things. What if every challenge you face was secretly a gift in disguise? Marcus Aurelius believed that it was not only possible, but necessary to find value in every situation. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, he wrote. This wasn't just a clever phrase, it was a powerful mindset shift. Don't resist obstacles, use them. Life will throw problems at you, that's guaranteed. But whether those problems defeat you or develop you, that's entirely up to you. The Stoic mindset says every setback is a chance to build resilience, every disappointment an invitation to grow. Even failure becomes a teacher if you're willing to listen. Ask yourself, what have you recently complained about that might actually contain a hidden opportunity? That delay, that rejection, that hardship, could it be redirecting you toward something better? Marcus didn't ask, why is this happening to me? He asked, how can I use this? That's the mark of true power. He didn't escape hardship, he transformed it. Whether it was sickness, betrayal, or war, he trained himself to pause and ask, what virtue does this moment demand from me? Patience, courage, wisdom, forgiveness. And in that space between pain and purpose, he found clarity. You can do the same. Instead of seeing life's difficulties as interruptions, see them as part of your training. Everything you go through can either break you or build you, and that choice is made not by circumstance, but by mindset. So from now on, don't just endure challenges, extract something from them. Learn, adapt, grow. Because the obstacle is not in your way, it is the way. Principle number 18, stop worrying about what is out of your control. How much of your mental energy is spent stressing over things you can't change? The weather, the opinions of others, the past, the future, all of it swirling in your mind, creating tension, fear, and exhaustion. Marcus Aurelius saw this clearly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In that one sentence is the core of Stoicism. Let go of what you cannot control, and master what you can. We're conditioned to believe that control equals security. But chasing control over external events only leads to frustration. Because no matter how hard you try, you cannot force people to like you, make the world fair, or stop life from being unpredictable. And Marcus knew this deeply. As emperor, he had influence, but not immunity. He couldn't stop wars from breaking out, or death from knocking at his door. But he could control his response, his thoughts, his attitude, his discipline. Ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's not yours to carry? Are you wasting hours trying to fix things that belong to fate, not to you? Are you trapped in the illusion that if you just try harder, you can change the unchangeable? Marcus would tell you to draw a clear line in your mind. What's up to you and what isn't? Your effort? That's yours. Your character? Yours. Your words? Your habits? Your mindset? All yours. Everything else. Let it go. Because when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up energy to master what actually matters. This isn't giving up, it's waking up. And once you make this shift, you'll find a peace the world can't touch, a calm that's unshakable, because nothing is more powerful than a person who's mastered the art of letting go. What you've just heard isn't just a list of philosophical ideas, it's a blueprint for strength. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations to impress anyone. He wrote it as a way to survive, to stay grounded while the world around him fell into chaos. And now, over 1,800 years later, his words still echo because they speak to something eternal, the power of the human spirit when it is guided by reason, clarity, and self-discipline. These 18 principles aren't just reminders, they're tools. Tools to protect your peace in a noisy world. Tools to help you rise above insult, failure, and fear. Tools to help you act as if nothing bothers you. Not because you're numb, but because you've built yourself strong from the inside out. So what do you do now? You practice, you reflect. You choose one of these principles today and live it. Don't just nod in agreement, apply it. Because Stoicism isn't meant to be admired from a distance. It's meant to be lived, tested, and proven in the fire of real life. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're part of a rare group. Most people scroll. You stayed. That says something about who you are and who you're becoming. So leave a comment below with the words, I am unshaken, if you're ready to master your mind and live above the chaos. And let me know, which principle hit you the hardest? Which one will you begin with? If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We dive deep into Stoicism, philosophy, and mental strength every week, and this is only the beginning. Thank you for watching. Stay calm, stay focused, and above all, stay unshakable.